Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of MTG Study Hall Social Distance Edition. I am one of your hosts, Brett, and I am joined this week by JC, Lily, and Tam. We have plenty to talk about today. Before we get to it, Tam has a little bit of bookkeeping. Tam, take it away.
Yeah, for sure. If you like the show and you want to get us and support the channel itself, please enroll out at patreon.com/tcguniversity. Even at the $1 level, get access to this show with a pre and a post show, all live, no commercials. Really, really rad, just like all of these awesome people. We've got Addie, Andrew Dang, Anthony Albano, Bryce Rasek, Chris Miner, Clay Cardle, Jacob, Arshan Masur, Jay Rogers, Jarrett Hubbard, Jesse Cervini, Jesse Morrison, Jesse Nix, so many Jessies, John Stone, Justin Farce, Justin Hobbs, Kat Maria, Kevin Broberg, Kieran Vision, Lucinda Letica, Okami Law, Orlando Valdez Sandos, Paul Casagrande, Peyton Kikers, Ransom McArthur, Samantha Stevens, the baddest bitch around, Sean O'Brien, Tito Ruiz, and Tyler Zampies. Thank you guys so much. We greatly appreciate it. If you don't have any bucks to toss, that's totally chill. You can catch us later, about a week later, out on YouTube, youtube.com/tcguniversity. There's a ton of playlists of podcasts that you can catch up on, as well as catch some live stuff on Twitch and some daily interaction out on Facebook. My last sales pitch to you is every month we're doing these giveaways that are going to be available out on Twitch. So if you are out on Twitch, you are subbed, or you are on the $5 level out on Patreon, you get entered in this giveaway. Currently, the giveaway that we have is 2 of the limited edition Mortal Kombat DLCs from the Universes card game, as well as there is a giveaway for Genesis Battle of Champions that we're doing. And then my last thing is the monthly exclusive Patreon merch giveaway are lanyards. Go at the Spirit Squad level, you get some super sweet purple and gold TCG University lanyards.
If you like the Minnesota Vikings, it is a very convenient color scheme, this podcast.
It really is. Lastly, we're brought to you by Nuclear Ink Custom Tattoo and Skate Shop, Card Custom Build, Ink Gaming, and Dex Protection, but we can talk about that a bit later.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Tam. We have some meaty stuff to get into, but before we do that, I want to talk about what we've been doing in Magic. We kind of covered this a little bit in the pre-show, but JC, what have you been doing in Magic this past week?
Oh, a couple things. I just had a good conversation on the pre-show about how I feel about Arena and how I feel like Arena isn't really Magic and how I've been feeling about the screens and such. But other than that, I've been looking at the secret layers. There was a recent secret layer that was the oozes, and it was hella cool because it reminded me of the old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics, how it had these like really kind of cell-shaded, bright, kind of almost like gross, like old Nickelodeon, like kind of feeling.
Not even old.
And what? Not old?
Oh, it has like Adventure Time vibes to it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's fair. Adventure Time's a good thing. Borderlands almost kind of feel to like the art. I don't know. I just dug it. It reminded me a lot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I super liked it. And they got a dog set coming up, and I dig when they do the art stuff. And yeah, so State of Design came out. I kind of read through that. You know, doing the general things, living through the Rona and not playing paper Magic with people. Sad face.
Alrighty, thank you very much, JC. Lily, what have you been doing this past week?
Oh gosh, been trying to draft Amonkhet, and it's not as fun as I remember it being.
Any good, particularly good runs you've had?
No.
I went 3-3 and 2-3, so yeah, I haven't broken into it just yet.
I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's.
Well, it's also weird because it's like a pseudo 300 card set, so it's not the normal block, and there's a weird amount of like different archetypes, kind of, but then you don't see as many cards of the full set.
It feels kind of incoherent.
But it added some really sweet shit to Historic. Like,
yeah.
I'm happy they did it, but it's been kind of an interesting thing. I'm hoping they kind of get more. They'll get more experience as they do more of these remaster sets. But yeah, no, it's been an interesting draft experience too. Anything other than the Amonkhet drafting?
Not of note, no. Still picking up little pieces of art here and there, trying to flesh out the set. So.
Well, okay. Like I said, when I was rudely talking during Lily's portion, I've done a little Amonkhet drafting myself. Hasn't been going great, but I'll probably do a few more. Did a birthday brawling with Brett stream where we didn't play Brawl and I just played Chandra Tribal and Historic and had an absolute blast. So until Historic gets less terrible, until Brawl gets less terrible, I might just be streaming Historic on Wednesdays for a little bit. We're going to keep calling it Brawling with Brett because it's a really good name, and I like the BWB thing we've got going on, and we'll have a new set soon. But yeah, I was able to order this new secret lair, and for me, I had to go do a bunch of looking because I would have bet money that it was the same artist who did the board game, the Epic Spell Battle, like Epic Spell Wizards Battle at Mount Skills Fire, whatever it is. It's a really fun board game, but it's very much a very stylized art, and the Void Slime flavor text being someone trying to cast Cyclonic Rift and then getting ooze blasted into their mouth is hilarious and absolutely finalized that sale for me. I was like, I played these cards in Command. Okay, that Void Slime's hilarious. Sold. So, yeah, I've done that. Oh, and for my birthday, Kat picked me up one of those the extended art Sword of Fire and Ices, and I got myself as extended art Stoneforge Mystic, so now I've got to decide what deck is getting those two things put into it.
So. Where's the extended art?
Those are very cool.
Shadow?
I will probably try to pick up all of the extended art swords just because I really like the swords. They're some of my favorite Magic cards, so that might be a trading goal I have. I might try to put some stuff aside and try to get the full set of extended art swords.
You just drop like $300.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be dropping $300, or when I sell stuff. Once every now and then, when I go up to Card Kingdom, I'll sell some cards, and so maybe I'll just maybe I'll trade in some cards I don't want and get those cool alternate arts. But yeah, that's me. And let's get rolling. I want to get into this topic because I have some opinions about this topic, and I feel like we might not all be agreeing on this. So the main thing
I watched Brett on his birthday.
Tam, I'm so sorry, Tam. What have you done in Magic this past
I hung out and watched
week?
Brett, and it was really fun and cool. It was cool. Honestly, I've just been thinking about like how Wizards does their secret lairs, and I've been very flip-floppy on if I like them or I don't like them. But I guess that's a different topic. I bet I could talk for 15 minutes on like how they put out secret lairs, but
let's talk about that in the post show because I'm actually curious I'm interested to talk about that too. So
sure.
Post show. Anything else? I'm so sorry,
They
Tam.
just make cards.
Well, wow.
Yeah, Tam's just annoyed that our game gets a bunch of releases.
If you want to call me out like that, yeah, sure.
Oh, I love sitting here. I'm like the spoiled. It's just oh gosh, it's kind of annoying how many sets they've released recently. I really wish they'd give us a breather. They just really made too many Magic cards.
With all the Genesis love, though, I feel like Tam might jump ships from what is his game here soon.
It's game's pretty hype.
Is that the grid one you were talking about?
Yeah.
Okay,
and we can talk about it in the post show as well.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna talk. I might actually be near you outside on Saturday, so we should talk more about that because I'm in on that.
Yeah, sure.
Alrighty, we're gonna launch into things. I was so excited I skipped over Tam. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, all good, man.
What's up, JC?
I'm so sorry. A brief aside, real quick. I realize I quip a lot in the Discord chat. Like, I'll just type things and quip a lot at people while they're talking. I'm just gonna do that in the YouTube chat. So,
Okay.
I guess if that is an incentive to
For
have
posterity.
people watch the show live, you can do that.
And that's actually a chat that I have pulled up, so I might pay attention to that. Can I make it big because I'm blind?
FYI, if you're going back and watching the recast of the live, the chat will keep pace with the video.
Oh, that's nice. Okay. I'll pay more attention to the
Well,
chat.
at least on other recasts of live streams that I watch on YouTube, it does.
We'll assume it works, and if not, we'll blame Tam. All right.
Good call.
Right.
The CEO of YouTube.
Blame our producer.
All problems in my life that are not immediately fixed are Tam's responsibility to fix.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about proxies now. So this got initially pitched as EDH proxies, but I think we don't need to just focus in on that. So proxies, just very loosely as a topic for some people who might not be as familiar, although I feel like this is a pretty basic idea, is using something that is not the card to represent the card. Now, sometimes this is somebody will write brainstorm on like a mountain, and that's your brainstorm. Sometimes this will entail printing off a little mini version of the card and tucking it into a sleeve. Sometimes there's full like stickers or cards that are not legal Magic cards but are the right shape and size, and if you put them in a sleeve you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. And then it almost kind of sort of trends into the area of like forgeries a little bit. Like I've heard of some people go, I'm going to buy this, I know it's not a real Magic card, I'm just going to play with my friends. That's a kind of murky territory. Maybe we'll get to that, but we're gonna at least let's open up just talking about proxies in general. For those of you who don't know, yes, go ahead.
Sometimes it's a misprinted card that is just an island and a mountain printed on top of each other.
Yes, I've seen people proxy like alpha duels. It says mountain and island, so it's a volcanic island.
Right,
so.
the Jumpstart ones, I think that's
Jumpstart did that really bad.
Oh, for some context, Tim, there were some cards in Jumpstart that the basic lands were just literally just like printed over. So you'd have like just the printing for mountain, and then literally just overlaid on top of that the printing for like plains, and then like so basic land would line up, and then the land type would be like both on top of each other.
Jumble, yeah.
Same with the names, and like the symbol would be that too, and it was like super cool.
Do those have any value?
Yes, they can.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
There's misprint groups on Facebooks, and so misprinted Magic cards can actually get you quite a bit of money, depending on how rare the misprint is.
And these specifically, unlike a lot of misprints, are very like clean and very like aesthetic. Like,
yeah, so there is a certain group of the player base who find those very desirable, and so I've seen people you've seen people proxy things using like, hey, this is a really intense misprint. It's functioning as this kind of proxy. And something I did want to go over, just so people who might not know. You are not allowed to use proxy cards in official sanctioned Wizards events. So if you are reporting it using Wizards Event Reporter, you are not allowed to use proxies outside of the corner case of a head judge can, if there is an issue with a card or something, can issue a temporary tournament-based proxy, but you can't say, hey, let's play Proxy Legacy, and you can, but it's against the rules and you get in trouble if you try to report it as an official event. So, I just want to open up a little bit. So proxies in general, where do people come down on them? And let's talk about kind of the different kinds and when we think it's people are okay with it, and if there's a point where you start feeling like it's less okay or that you don't support it as much.
So just real quick, an aside on the judge issuing a proxy thing would be in a situation where like a card got damaged during the tournament or during play, usually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was gonna say, and if like in general, like let me know, Lily, because you're the most judgy person on this podcast as far
double
as like
entendre.
Double entendre. If you're using any kind of like altered art, like that's barely altered or anything like that, like typically that's kind of a no-no, but if you want, you can check with a judge and see if the judge can okay it.
Okay, so on the whole, alters are normally fine unless they obstruct the big things that need to be clear: the card's name, the card's mana cost, and it needs to not be like it needs to be recognizable as the card,
or at the very least, it can't look like another card. You can't proxy your. I mean, because I've seen ones that were allowed at Star City Games tournaments where like the name and the mana cost were left alone, but then the whole thing was like a Star Wars art.
Yeah,
but it didn't look like a lightning. It didn't look like a lightning bolt.
And and also like just to make sure, I thought this is part of it, but let me know if I'm wrong. It can't substantially alter the weight of the card either, or make it to the point where it might create any shuffle problems or anything like that.
Correct. Mm-hmm. If it is altered in such a way that it would be recognizable to when you're shuffling, that it's basically marked at that point.
Makes sense.
Which is less a problem with the altar and more a problem with marking your cards in your deck.
Mm-hmm. And I want to move into altars a little bit later on, but I want to get into proxies in general. And so I can kind of open up a little bit. So one thing about proxies I've always heard is a great thing with proxies is if you're not sure what you want to play or you're testing for like a tournament, proxy up whole decks. Like if you're like a spiky person, you're like, I want to get better at Magic, proxy. You can go to multiple websites, print off little black and white versions, stick it in a sleeve with a basic land. You can get every tier 1 deck in a tournament, play them. That is how you get good at Magic. So that's something that for proxies, I will always baseline encourage people like, hey, you want to get good? You want to practice something? Proxy it.
I guess where I kind of come down on proxies is kind of the same. I guess I see it like anything that you use for training that isn't like maybe like legitimate. I guess I kind of come down on it like this. I can't come up with a really good simile in real life for other things, except like possibly using like different training tools and stuff like that that aren't licensed versions of things or like whatever. But I think it kind of comes down on proxies for me that if it's not for money or status or fame, proxies are fine. But if it is in any kind of place where you are playing any tournament format where you can get kudos, money, standing, anything of that nature, even if it's just like kind of a friendly thing or things like that, that's when I get less okay with proxies.
No, and that's I mean, and I'm gonna. Lily, do you have any thoughts before I kind of want to launch into EDH proxies? Because like, I have some opinions on EDH proxies that might not be shared by everyone here.
Oh, like just in general?
Yeah. So I mean, here I'm gonna just lay out my thoughts on proxies. So obviously, I mean, it makes sense that proxies aren't allowed in Wizards tournaments. But it is now proxy tournaments can be a lot of fun. If there's a proxy vintage tournament or something going on and you want to play it, I'd recommend you go. I used to do a monthly. I'm a monthly French dual commander tournament, which was very competitive, obviously, and we were allowed 10 proxies. Now we weren't able to report it officially, but we went in. You can use the bracketing software. You just can't use, to the best of my knowledge, or maybe you have to bracket out yourself. I'm not sure, but we were allowed 10 proxies because we wanted to go hard, and so I proxied out alpha duels. I proxied out the fetch lands I didn't have. I proxied out. There's that like
alpha duel. You were playing a 2-color deck.
I was playing 3-color. My main deck was Narset. Narset
Didn't
was
you
the
play
one.
Sisse way longer?
I opened with Sisse. I played Narset for months and months and months. And so like there's Armageddon is cheap, but then there's the Portal 3 Kingdoms Armageddon that's $400. So I proxied that. So that was really nice, and it was nice to know that everyone at that tournament was able to play basically whatever they wanted within reason, with just a little bit of effort. So that was super great.
What is like okay, real quick, like within reason? Where's your line there?
What do you mean?
Because if you took away your 10 proxies, how much was your deck still worth?
A fair amount. I mean, a fair amount. So it would be hard to go in with nothing. But there were, in a format like that, you could say, what's a good mono-color deck? What's a good 2-color deck? And you could probably assemble a functional competitive deck for under $100 with 10 proxies at that level. Now, could you play any deck in the format? Probably not. But you could get a tier 1 deck or a tier 2. Because also French Commanders... Go ahead.
That was before the Devoted Retainer reprint?
No, I think it was after the...
Or Loyal Retainer, excuse me.
That was after Loyal Retainer got reprinted, at least in the Commander's Arsenal. And so like it was that particular French series. It was really nice, and like my deck still had some money in it, but I feel like in French there wasn't like a meta, so you could still bring something weird and still with 10 proxies and a little bit of money. And the other thing is, if you're going to a 10 proxy French Commander tournament, you probably have an amount of a collection anyway. So I don't think it was an undue hardship on anybody. And the rules of it were they needed to be clearly printed proxy, so they could be black and white. But you couldn't write Brainstorm on an island. You needed to print something out that had the art, that had the text, that had everything, which
for context here, French Dual Commander was a variant of Commander that got super popular, would it have been like 4 years ago?
Oh, 4 to 6. And it's still around to a degree.
Right. Well, but like every variant, it's sort of like trail off. But yeah, it is a variant of Commander with its own separate maintained ban list and banned is Commander list, right?
Yeah, ban list. Life totals changed. Actually,
right. There are a number of things that they changed throughout. They were tinkering with it for a while, but it is a Commander variant that is maintained by a separate group than the main Commander ban list.
Yep, different than the rules committee. So that was that, and that's probably my main experience with proxies. When it comes to my personal Magic playing, I play Arena, which doesn't come up in that. And I play EDA, and I'll play casual paper Commander with my friends. Occasionally, if I'm missing 1 or 2 cards that are in the mail, I will proxy them. I will say, I ordered this, but everything else is in the deck. It's ready to go. So in the past few years, I think I've proxied 2 cards that were in the mail. I don't like using proxies in Commander. And now I want to mention this. Now I want to admit this. I'm going to have to acknowledge I am coming from a place of privilege. I have a good amount of spending money that I am able to and choose to spend on Magic. And I've been playing for a long time, so I have quite an extensive collection. So there are many, many, many expensive cards that I have access to. And I don't have like, say, I have a couple Alpha Duels, which in my head is like, I only have a couple Alpha Duels. But for some people, I have a couple Alpha Duels. And those Alpha Duels are in my Commander decks because I don't buy cards to not play with them. So
Bayou and Badlands, right?
I traded the Bayou
right.
years ago. I picked up the red-white one because it was like under $100, and it's like I had some extra money lying around, and it seemed like A, I'll use this in Commander, B, this will probably never be cheaper than this. So every now and then, I also trade into reserve list cards. So anytime I'm getting rid of cards, I will always just try to trade into cards that I won't be able to buy again because they'll reprint everything but the reserve list. So that's just one of the ways that I'm not like a big finance guy, but I try to increase the value of my collection so I can trade stuff off and get stuff I want, or so I can have access to it later on. So, I mean, I was lucky to be playing Commander when it wasn't as popular.
Right.
I bought I was just talking, I think, pre-show. I have all the Legends Commanders. I have Angus Mackenzie. I have Gwendolyn DeCourcy. We have Rasputin Dreamweaver. Those cards were $20-$30 when I bought them, which seemed like a lot. Now they're all $100, $200, $300. I can play those. I got a Gaia's Cradle as a gift for $80. It's $800 now. It's in one of my decks because I'm not going to not use my Gaia's Cradle.
Right.
It's a Gaia's Cradle. So personally, I don't use proxies. I also don't even switch cards out between decks. So my Gaia's Cradle's in one deck.
Right.
And sure, my Gaia's Cradle would be good in every deck I have with green. But I made a choice. It goes in one of my decks. If I want to put it in a different deck, I will take it out of Borborygmos and I will put it in that deck.
How do you feel about if somebody proves the fact that they have a Gaia's Cradle and they're like, oh, I have 4 Commander decks, 2 of them use Gaia's Cradle, I only own 1. One of these has a proxy, but obviously here's the real one. I don't want to switch it out every time. Do you feel okay playing against that person proxy-wise?
Personally, I don't mind if the card is very clearly a Gaia. If they have made some effort, if they've gotten an actual proxy sticker, if they have printed off a clear, readable version of it and put it in the sleeve, if they have taken action to lessen any like when you sit down, I mean, and I even try not to play too many foreign language cards because I want people to be able to read my cards.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the only one I have, but it's important to me that cards are recognizable, and that's one of the reasons that Magic is great. The art is recognizable. So if someone has taken the onus off of me to do extra work, to remember that your island that you wrote lightly on with a Sharpie is whatever, then I'm not gonna bat an eye. I also don't mind if, like, when you got those, like, lands that aren't technically lands, but, like, I got these pretty lands. Oh, I don't care at all about that. That's great. Those are kind of fun. Those are cool. It's like, I got these from the internet, and it's a forest. And it looks like a forest, and because I don't know what every forest art looks like, but okay, that's clearly a forest. I'm not going to complain.
Right.
That's a forest.
It's clearly a forest. What he's referencing there is I have a dinosaur deck, and I thought what would be fun for a dinosaur deck is to have forests that look very lush and Jurassic Parky, and to have all the cards that were mountains and plains be depicting apocalyptic scenarios of meteors hitting the planet.
Scary.
Oh gosh.
And I know I'm talking a bit, but I'll ramble on if that's okay, because I think I'm gonna start moving into my controversial opinions.
Oh, yeah, because I think something Tam was alluding to there is a lot of people will proxy cards that are expensive, that they only have maybe 1 copy of or something like that, and playing with a card will fox the card and such, and even if you have it sleeved and stuff like that, invariably you'll get some things on the corners and stuff too. So I know a lot of people will proxy for that reason. It rather reminds me of I don't know if any of you play D&D or Pathfinder at like official events or anything like that, but D&D Pathfinder, the way they work, if you go to Gen Con or anything like that, if you build a character using a source book that's like an extra source book, that one that you would have to purchase that's not just in the player's handbook or anything like that, or in the base core rule book, a GM at any time at any table could call on you to verify that you own that product.
Wow.
To be able to play that character.
And like
they generally don't, but they certainly can. And it is certainly encouraged that if you are playing with a bunch of extra source books on your character, to carry around with you, like, you know, like you're on your phone, be able to pull up that you have your purchase receipts for this.
They don't care that you have the book present with you. They want you to have bought it.
They want you to have bought it. They're okay as long as you can physically prove that you own the book.
That's weird as hell.
And honestly, I play a bunch of, like, I've played a lot of Pathfinder, like, official events. I play a bunch of weird ass characters. I have never been called on to prove it.
Now,
so I don't think it happens very often, but I do make sure that I carry, because you on your Paizo account, for instance, for Pathfinder, you can log in and it'll show you all the books you own.
Now here's a hypothetical, and I don't want to get too off track on this. If let's say I bought your old books from you, and I carried the book in with me, and I said,
yes.
"Oh, I'm running this character. Yeah, here's the book." Because like the book, I thought the rules you had to have the book. That makes sense. If you're a DM and you don't have everything memorized, oh, I'm a Sunlight Cavalier with a Mega Lance. Okay, let me see it.
Exactly.
Right.
That's the other thing. That's actually the main thing. They're not doing it so much for the classism of, like, we want you to own the book. They're doing it so that any GM at any time could verify that you're not fucking cheating. But that is the other thing. So either you can carry around a backpack with that book and you can prove, look, I have the book, or you can, like, be able to pull up your account real quick and be like,
okay,
here it is, look it up.
Okay, but just having the PDF of the book is not.
The PDFs are all signed. So if you buy a PDF, it'll typically have your name on the bottom of it.
Okay, but what if it does? Like, does that not count? Like, I am so fucking against the idea of, like, cost as a barrier to entry to role-playing games. Like, that makes me sick to my stomach.
Yeah, like I said, no one's ever called me on it, and really the rule is just in place so that people can verify it, verify what the ruling on it actually is. Like, if you're playing something weird, that, like, it actually plays that way. But typically it is like if you own the PDF and you're proving it by showing the PDF, it has to have your name printed on the bottom per, like, the official Pathfinder rules.
I want to pivot this back to Magic, and we're gonna. It might be
pivot back to Magic, but related to proxies and people doing it because it's expensive.
One of my points in a second will tie into this. So I don't not just like, okay, we're done with that. No, I'm gonna tie this into Magic and kind of one of my points, because this is where it gets weird, and this is where I might have a shitty opinion, and, like, I'm always open to listen to other people's thoughts and critiques. But so on my proxy list, so we're working up to it. So I don't mind if you do the lands. I've even had people go, I bought this demonic tutor online. It's one of those sticker ones. It doesn't look like a demonic tutor, but it looks like a magic. It says sorcery. It says the card text. It's got a special different demon on the art, but they went through some effort. They put a thingy over the thing. They sleeved it up. It looks nice. I'm sitting down. Now, I might have to get used to what that new thing is, and if they did it with every card in their deck, I might get annoyed, but it's like, okay, you didn't want to spend that on a demonic tutor, and then you also did a thing. Okay, fair play. I'm not going to get gripey. If somebody wants to test a card and say, I'm testing this deck, I'm testing this card, as long as they hit that bare minimum of your cards are somewhat readable, you printed out a black and white version, put it in there, you don't know if you want to spend the money on this, okay. If I sit down against someone in Commander, and they have 5 Alpha Duels proxied, and they have a Gaia's Cradle proxied, and they have 6 creatures proxied, I came to play Magic cards. I've spent my time and my money and my effort on my hobby, and I've made my collection. And I am sitting here against you with a stack of cards that are Magic cards. I would like to play against Magic cards. If you and your group just does this and just lives in Proxy World, that's fine. I know, more power to you. I would want to play against them with Magic cards, because something to keep in mind, and this is where it gets tricky, Wizards has to make money. They make this game. They crank out 5 to 6 sets a year. If everyone just played proxies, Magic would die. Local game stores that we're always talking about, buy from your local game store, buy from your local game store. They stockpile cards. They stockpile those shock lands, those alpha duels, those fetch lands. If you want those cards, the way you keep our friendly local game stores that keeps our community alive is you buy from them. And so I'm probably not going to play against you if every one of your decks is just every card that's more than $1 is proxied. I have decks that have very expensive cards. I also have lower powered decks. If one of my high powered decks, like my deck with Gaia's Cradle is really good, my Board Rainbows deck is really good, I won't play it all the time. And I'll normally play it once. If I win, I'm done. But I want to play with Magic cards. And like, if you want to spend the $60 and get the gold frame Gaia's Cradle, that's fine with me. It looks like a Magic card. Magic people made it. You want to play with those gold bordered cards? Sure. Hell, if Wizards put out an official, here's a cube set, the back isn't Magic, the border is gold, any of those cards I'd be fine with. If they did re-released, like, whatever, that'd be fine with me. But I don't want to play against someone who's like, these are all proxies, I have no intent to get these cards, this is my thing. I would ask you play a normal deck. I don't want to deal with that.
Okay, so on this, right? So I don't think cost should be a barrier in entry. I have no problem with somebody like if somebody makes something that looks like a Magic card, like you could proxy like every single like reserve list card that you want and put it in your deck. I don't give a damn. Like that's fine. If Wizards aren't going to print more of these cards, then people should do what they need to do to play with these pieces. At the same time, like there's not really like the amount of benefit you actually get from running like Tropical Island over Breeding Pool. Not gonna matter most games. Not for the commander y'all are playing. Not for the like any commander. Like the amount of commander games that are being played where that actually matters are very few.
I mean, and it's also weird. Oh, sorry, go ahead. I don't want to cut you off.
So like I'm like so. If you think you need to do it, like Gaia's Cradle, I would not blink. Like, yeah, okay, I'm in a proxy, chains him off Mephistopheles. Fuck you. But also, fine, all right, whatever. Like, these cards, there's not an equivalent of. But if there's something kind of like 80% of it, don't proxy it. Just run the slightly worse version that's never going to matter with the kind of game you're playing.
And that's the other thing is, if you start proxying 10 reserve list cards, are you doing this because this is going to fit my deck theme nicely, or are you doing this so you can have a flawless 5-color mana base? And like, it's weird, but it's like, I don't have flawless 5-color mana base, and if I have a 5-color deck and I really like, there's a certain amount of like, I went and got all the shock lands, I have all my fetch lands into this, I am not going to be flipping them between all my decks when we sit down to play, so you're always dealing with a certain amount of power. I feel like that's a little bit of a weird thing. And it's like, you said, like, so, a Gaia's Cradle, a Chains of Mephistopheles. If that's your one card and you have taken effort, it's a really good proxy. You went online and you got a sticker version of it. You got the gold bordered version.
Or you modified another card so that it has art.
Yeah, it's like if you did some effort and you do it with a couple cards that are really pricey, I'm not going to throw a fit. But it's the person who's going to sit down with 40, 50 plus powerful cards proxied out there, and it's like, yeah, I don't want to play with that. The other thing is, I think it's reasonable to say we're playing Magic. I mean, and this is also casual Commander.
Right.
There's nothing on the line, but like, I want to play against Magic cards. I don't want to play against your shitty-looking proxy deck. This is my hobby. This is my pastime. I can't read that. Every card I have to pick up and go, what is this? What is the text? I'm pulling out my phone and checking Gather because you didn't feel like writing the rules down? No. Play with Magic cards. We're playing Magic.
Okay, so real quick to what Kat was saying in the chat, right? I don't think it was the specific example of Gaia's Cradle and the Ixalan flip card. I don't think that's comparable to Cradle. I think it's a fundamentally different card than Cradle. Like, I think you can get it to be a Cradle, but it is, oh gosh, like there's the other hoop that you have to jump through to get it there to begin with, makes it like it's not a landslide. It's still not a landslide. Like it is a different enough card that I would not like. I wouldn't blink if someone's like, yeah, that seems pointless. Like I'd rather have this nice looking proxy. Like, okay.
And this also might be my place of privilege speaking too. I also feel like this is the conversation we're talking about might also be a power level problem, because even though I run very expensive cards in some of my decks, I pay attention to my power level. And so I might know my Borborygmos deck is, let's say, an 85% tier deck, but I make sure to have other ones. If you feel like you have to get these cards to compete with your play group or to beat somebody, you need to talk about you need to talk about that social contract, because this I'm not even going to touch CEDH. If you and your people want to play CEDH and you don't want to spend $1 million, again, whatever your people are good with. I'm not speaking, and everyone should have my Proxy opinion. These are the opinions I'm going to tell you if you sit down across from me with proxies. This is where I'm going to kind of come down on it. But if you feel like you need to do this and you need to proxy all these cards, like, do you need a Gaia's Cradle? Do you need that for your deck? I mean, it's fun to play with it, and that's why mine is not sitting in a book, not safe, holding all its value. It's not a stock. I have a 401k. My Magic cards are not an investment. It's nice that I know I could liquidate them if I had to. I play with my Magic cards. That's why I buy them. I am not an investor.
I think the big thing about proxies is actually 100% intent, which is like kind of where you're getting at, right? If the intent is I need to have the absolute best spiky, best deck I could possibly make, and I need these cards, then it's your responsibility as a card game player to go and find these cards. But if the intent is like, hey, I've just jumped into the game, and all of my friends are at this power level, and I only own cards at this power level, writing a couple pieces of paper so that not so I'm just a punching bag is like its own level of intent, right? I sit down across the table and I just get mollywopped on turn 3 because you have paid for this, and I'm like, hey man, I'm 2 months in, and I don't know what or how or whatever to play. But let me proxy a couple cards and then figure out what that looks like.
And that's the fig. Oh, go ahead, Lily, please.
So if that's what's happening, there's a bigger problem than just the power level. So if the other 3 people at the table are at that same power level and you're not, and they're taking you out, why are they doing that?
And I would also, this is a weird 4-player thing, and this is not me touching on 1v1 formats, and like I don't even want to touch how to play Vintage, but Commander's Quarters is a YouTube channel that does nothing but dump out incredible decks for $50 or less. Mm-hmm. There's all sorts of stuff. So the other thing is like, if you can't take a $50 to $70 deck off the Commander's Quarters and you always lose 100% of your time because everyone else is running all these high-powered, expensive cards, that's a power level conversation.
Right.
You can compete in EDH with a $50 deck. If you say, I want to know what it's like to play Time Twister, I want to experience that, and I'm going to make some effort so I can do that without spending the money, or I'm going to save up and buy this game piece so I can say, hey, I've got this game piece. I'll work with that. But it's this, I think a lot of times proxies it's a deck building power level conversation. Oh, my deck isn't as good as there because their cards are better. Maybe, but you could also be built. You also are running a bunch of bad cards that have 5-cent replacements that would be better. Right. You could be playing sharper. You could be communicating to your group when you say, guys, you've got all these tutors and I just can't keep up. Could I borrow a deck? Can I proxy a few things? Could you guys maybe bring a lower power deck? Like, I think there's so many things that can come into it.
For sure.
I mentioned we'd come back because I kind of want to come to JC, the making sure they bought the book and money being a barrier to entry. And it's like, I don't want to just be, you can't afford fun. You're a poor person. But at official events,
vibes that I'm getting from this.
At official events,
look at these peasants with their proxies.
Oh my lord!
Laughs and rich.
This is a hobby. You can't go cheap on scuba. If you want to scuba dive, you can't go cheap. If you want to go to a place and say, I'm going to participate in this Pazio thing, and Pazio wants to keep making money to hire artists and writers so they can produce their product, and they say, Pazio. I don't really feel bad that they say you need to have taken a step. You could buy the book secondhand. You could borrow it from a friend. You could buy the PDF from us. Or you can go home and we don't care what you do. You pirate it, whatever. There's your free option. You're going to come to this thing where we are providing support. We're providing this stuff. Hobbies cost money. And I can say this because my roommate's not in here. $40K. $40K is a very expensive hobby. And I have been playing for very similar to Match. I've been playing for a long time, slowly putting money into it. And now prices don't go up and down on models really, but I have quite the army. One of my friends, my roommate, I get to play a lot of 40K with him, which is a lot of fun. He proxies a lot of stuff. He tries a lot of stuff out. We've been playing for about a year now. He's slowly building up his collection. It's nice to sit down to a game and play my correct models that are modeled correctly against someone else's models that are modeled correctly. I don't have to keep track of, I can look at your model and say, oh, that has this gun. That has this melee weapon. oh no, this thing, you're borrowing this, it's painted as this. It's nice to sit down. I paid money for, I pay money, I go, what am I going to buy, what am I not going to buy? I want to play 40K. If you want to proxy with your friends, that's great. Have all the fun you want. Get the books, get the PDFs for cheap, buy an old edition used, make stuff out of cardboard. I'm not here to say you aren't really playing 40K, but I think there's a certain amount of, I spend time and money and my effort on my hobby. I buy my game pieces. I would like my opponents to give me the same courtesy back, I guess.
Big shout outs to our sponsors this week. We have Nuclear Inked Custom Tattoo and Skate Shop. This episode is sponsored by Nuclear Inked Custom Tattoo and Skate Shop. At Nuclear Inked, you will find a very inclusive environment with artists that share your interests in nerd culture and fandoms alike. Nuclear Inked prides themselves in being Omaha's premier all-custom tattoo shop. So if you're looking to get a custom tattoo, please check out Nuclear Inked here in Omaha, Nebraska. A link will be in the description down below. InkedGaming.com. Are you looking to get a custom playmat? Well, then we suggest you check out InkedGaming.com. They have custom playmats, dice bags, mouse pads, and so much more. They have recently added a stitch option to all of their playmats. That's what I get. And mouse pads as well. Inked Gaming lets you play your game with your style. If you want to get 10% off your entire order, please use the code TCG University, all caps, no spaces at checkout, to help support the channel by customizing your game to your style. Cards Custom Build. Are you into cosplay? Looking to get into cosplay? Do you want to show up to events dressed as your favorite character? Well, Cards Custom Build can help. Cards Custom Build creates everything from cosplay accessories like props, trinkets, or weaponry, all the way up to full costumes. Do you want to make a cosplay out of perfectly flowing cloth, or maybe you want rigid battle armor? Cards Custom Build has you covered. Their work is guaranteed to make you the talk of the con. So go over to Cards Custom Build either on Facebook or on their Etsy account. Links will be in the description down below. And make sure you mention that TCG University sent you there, and you'll get 5% off of your entire order. And Dex Protection. Dex Protection is on a never-ending pursuit to create the highest quality storage and protection accessories. Their design and innovation comes from die-hard gamers and collectors just like you. So they know what you want in the products that you buy. They're constantly taking in feedback from their customers, and they have no plans on stopping their innovations or their drive to refine their products until they're recognized as a leader in their industry. They make terrific products, well, all with the avid gamer and collector in mind. So go ahead and check them out. A link will be in the description down below. And with that, let's get back to the show.
I guess.
Why is it important that they buy them? What if somebody 3D printed correct models?
Oh, actually, so if I may add a thing to it, what if they stole it?
I mean...
So the having of the model, I would assert here, is the important part, not the purchasing.
I mean, so the thing I would say, the respect, no, I mean, the thing part of it is, if everyone just 3D prints 40K models, they don't make more 40K and the company goes under. It's not respectful for the artists who gave their time, who made their product. And it's weird because I don't want to sit here and defend companies, but the companies employ artists and designers who make our games.
I mean, but the company also, like, do you think Games Workshop adequately compensates their artists for the art that they do?
Probably not.
I mean, yeah, like a lot of this gets into a real kind of class conversation. Because the reason I mentioned like stealing was like, because a lot of people put 3D printing as tantamount to stealing intellectual property when they do that. So
and that's the thing. It's I wouldn't if you 3D print and you play at home, and you weren't ever going to buy the models, I'm not going to call the cops. But if your local game store says, we're running a tournament, we want you to run official 40K models that you bought. Okay. That's the barrier to entry. If you want to play 40K at the tournament and get the tournament support and play with their terrain, and they say, we want you to have bought the models, I think that's reasonable.
What if you couldn't tell the difference?
But there's a certain amount of, you need to support your local game store and the people who make the product. If they say you can't use 3D printed models, please don't do that. We ask you not to do that. You are making it so in the future no one can play this game if you do this. Please don't do this. And if you do it anyway, you're a dick.
Yeah, because there is a certain level of like we were talking last podcast or podcast before about how Gen Con was giving people access to kind of these master accounts where you could build, basically any deck. But the argument there was, one, Gen Con supports the hell out of Magic the Gathering. So like, and these are kind of official events and official, it's Wizards doing it. Like, but also the other argument is you paid for a badge and, you're there and everything like that. So that makes it cool. And also you're getting to play with a thing you don't normally get to play with. So, I feel like there is a level of like, people feel like it's more okay to shoplift from Walmart than they do from their mom and pop store because like we need to support our mom and pop store so they keep going on. So is Magic the Gathering such a monolith that it would be more of a crime to proxy cards against Tam's card game where there's only a small community or something like that if they printed actual cards? But like, would that be more of a reprehensible thing to use proxies in that situation than it is to use proxies in a thing where Wizards will be fine if I'm proxying a card that, I plan on owning soon, but I can't quite do right now. I
mean, on the 40K plan on that, it's if you knowingly brought forgeries to a Magic tournament, I think that's a dick move.
Okay, so can I...
It's all about intent.
There's an important element to this that I think makes Magic different than a lot of other games, in that there are certain game pieces that Magic has within it that no more are being manufactured.
Mm-hmm.
Like, does the reserve list change this at all? Does the fact that we're not going to get any more volcanic islands, period, there will not be more that exist, change the conversation? Because as time goes on, they will get damaged, destroyed, lost.
I would argue that there are
in people's like private collections ever to be used. Like, does that change the calculus here?
There's other formats you can play though. You can play the formats where they can reprint the cards. Like and this is weird, and like I'm going to say this, and maybe I'm going to look like a huge fucking asshole.
Please do.
You're not owed getting to play in a legacy tournament. It's not your right to just say, I want to play in a legacy tournament and I don't want to spend any money on the deck. You don't get to. You can sit at home and play Legacy with your friends, written on whatever you want, and that's fine. But if you're using the support of Wizards and the organizers and the stores and the vendors and everyone who's saying, we're running a Legacy tournament, this costs money, we're bringing vendors in, we want you to buy from Star City Games, we're running this tournament, we're paying $20,000 for this auditorium, and you say, well, I don't want to pay anything. Go home and play with your friends for free. You aren't owed the right to play in this Legacy tournament. And Wizards has to acknowledge that one of their formats might die because of their reserve list. If they're not going to budge on that, then play other formats. Or we could open our own thing and say, Proxy tournament, we aren't going to be able to we don't have Wizard support. We have to use our own Swiss pairing system. We can do that. I don't know if Wizards would sue us or if that's even on their radar. We could say, hey, we're doing a Legacy Proxy tournament. That's our right, and that's okay. And I'm not going to say, shut that nonsense down. But if a store or an event says, we want you to use the official product from our games because we need people to buy this product so we can pay our employees, so we can ship the product, so we can buy the convention hall, I don't have a problem with that.
I mean, a game is bigger than the people who buy who make the pieces, the people who organize the play. I mean, like, the game is bigger than that. The people that are playing that, like, if people want to do that, I don't see it as a problem. If people want to play a Legacy, play that format, but they don't want to spend hundreds of dollars on it, like, sure, okay, maybe they don't play at organized tournaments, but, like, is there a certain point where, like, I mean, who gives a damn? Like, why is Blizzard's not, or fucking, why do I keep doing that? Wizards of the Coast isn't going to go, like, the secondary market isn't going to bankrupt Wizards of the Coast.
So,
like, the secondary market tanking isn't going to screw it'll fuck up game stores. I mean, probably, yeah.
But, like, so if Card Kingdom, Star City Games both go out of business because fakes are indistinguishable, and they put this money in, and they bought that stuff up knowing, like, hey, we can sell this if we need to.
Sure.
So if those two companies go down and no one's paying for tournaments anymore, now we just don't have Magic Fest because the places that could afford to put them on just got ran out of business.
I mean, we don't have Magic Fest right now,
and it sucks. And it sucks. I was going to go to one. I was going to be a trip. Me and Dave were going to drive down and listen to weird podcasts, and I was going to play in the command zone. And I can't, and that sucks.
I don't know. The game is bigger than the people organizing the play, than the people making the game. Like,
but like, there's so many ways to. I mean, no one's telling you can't proxy these decks. You can't play with your friends. You can't organize a local tournament. And I just when it gets to you want to play at the official level, bring the official pieces. I just don't have a problem with that. The game is more than that. So you can open up Cockatrice and download all of the cards, pay 0 cents, and you and your friends can play Legacy all day, every day. Now, Wizards might try to be like, no, they haven't cracked out on Cockatrice yet. Now, maybe if Star City Games start...
They did in a couple different programs that were similar to it over the years.
Which, I mean, I don't want to... My goal here is not to sit here and defend companies. I don't like companies, generally speaking, but...
You're doing a bang-up job, though.
I know it. Oh, boy, yeah, capitalism.
So here's the thing, and obviously, like, let me not put my foot in my mouth either. This every time that I hear about like the good guy, the game designers or the artists or whatever, and then you compare them to the evil corporation, right? It always reminds me of this Batman quote of you either die the hero or live long enough to become the villain. I'm positive when Wizards, the company, was 2 years in, everybody who was making the game was like, fuck yeah, Wizards, let's go. Wizards is so rad. And then they became the #1 card game. And then it's like, fuck Wizards, they're not doing anything right, blah, blah, blah. I think this is so easy to, like, since we are so close to the game, it is so easy that there are other corporations, and honestly, let's say Wizards has not made the right steps, right? I sit here and I listen to everybody talking about Wizards, right? And then, like, they're the biggest game that you could possibly have on cardboard. And then we talked about Genesis Battle of Champions. They're literally in step 1, right? I'm positive that if Haunted Castle Gaming, the people who made Genesis Battle of Champions, had the notoriety of everything, and we were sitting here on the podcast talking about Genesis Battle of Champions, as excited as we were about this game, the entire conversation would be flipped because fuck the man, right? And so it's so easy to sit here and be like, proxies are rad because the game is so big that we can't get the old stuff. JC from our YouTube chat, if you guys want to join the YouTube chat live, patreon.com/TCUniversity, $1 a month, said this comes up a lot in the emulator community. And once again, it's all based on content. If I go and I emulate Ghost of Tsushima right now, that's kind of a dick move. But if I go and I emulate Earthbound, that is like $1 million to go and play this game that just like literally doesn't exist anymore. There's that big gray line. I could get this. So for Lily's point of, hey, these cards are on the reserve list. These cards don't exist anymore. I can't play with these cards. I should be allowed to proxy them, especially inside of casual games. Dude, I'm super on board. But it's kind of on the company, it's on Wizards' earnest to draw a line in the sand. And I actually really respect them of, hey, you can't proxy these cards unless we actually tell you that you can. Okay. You can't do X, Y, and Z because this is a quote-unquote official thing. This is it. But what you do, hey, man, I play with Blue Eyes White Dragon in my Uno games, right? Like, I can play whatever I want to when I'm sitting down and I'm teaching my 5-year-old niece the power of the Blue Eyes White Dragon in Uno. Yeah, that doesn't matter.
So like the big thing here, like the big thing I want to stress is like if WotC wants to, they need to get the secondary market to a place where people can reasonably afford the cards for the formats that they want to play, if they want these formats to continue to exist.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think they're doing some of that, like Secret Lairs, and we've got more aggressive reprints. Like,
you mean the Fetch Land Secret Lair? Because that wasn't.
I don't want to get too political here, but
oh my god,
this is gonna on a side thing here. I want to caution this because I'm sorry, but it's hard not to do this. And Tam, I agree with your like the little guy versus the big company, and like, oh fuck the man. However, there is a way to have a large successful company and have your lowest paid employee not make 100th of your highest paid employee. Right. So for sure. If Wizards was like, all our employees are part owners in the company, the CEO makes 4 times more than the lowest employee, we have all these protections, it would be a lot harder to shit on Wizards.
Oh yeah.
So if your little company you pitched, if they're probably just a few people. and they're probably every bit of money that goes to them really goes to them. If in 10 years they were like, we're going to set these rules, we're going to make sure everyone who works for us has all these protections, then they aren't a giant asshole. So I do want to say, when I'm insulting a big company, it's not just because they're the man, it's because almost every large video game game producing company out there is doing horrifying things to their lowest paid employees. So I do want to throw that caveat out there. There is a way to get big and successful and to support your lowest paid employees and not make yourself be a bunch of assholes. So sorry to get a little political here, but there is a path to that.
Yeah, I completely agree. But the big thing is like, I'm not positive that our podcast is going to fix Wizards, right? I know every Wizard CEO is listening to our fun podcast, and this is like, we could have an entire conversation about Wizards and their business practices, but I don't know how it would fix anything, right?
I don't want to do that conversation.
Right,
yeah,
and not only do we not want to do that conversation, it wouldn't be very helpful, but we can sit here and talk about, is it cool if I play Gaia's Cradle and I never go to a tournament? Which I think, I got a
little bit off there, but I did just want to throw that out there, and I've been defending companies a lot, so I do just want to make sure I try and keep my leftist cred a little bit present.
Yeah, it's okay. Almost lost your card there.
But it's weird, and I don't... I know I come from a place of privilege where I have a nice stable job, but I don't have kids and I don't have other expenses, and I can go, yeah, I'm going to buy a bunch of Magic cards and 40k stuff and look at my pretty case full of Space Wolves and look at my book where I can go, oh, I want to build this deck. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, there's a $300 base to that deck. I'll order $20 of cards and be done. It's weird, and I don't like defending companies, and I don't like defending the current system, but at the same time, the companies, the people who make the games, like, the ecosystem exists, and if forgeries become indistinguishable and Cards Kingdom and Channel Fireball all go under, do we still have a way to play Magic when the pandemic's done?
I mean, people will keep making Magic cards.
Yeah, but at the same time,
we will have the pirate infrastructure in place at that point, and Magic will continue.
If Magic stopped, like, people would still keep making Magic cards.
But I'm sorry to shit on universes, but I'm gonna. It's really nice that every card and every set is made by the same company, and there's a unified rule system.
Yeah.
It's cool that Magic hasn't been sold 3 times, and then they've kind of relaunched it, and you sort of can't play with those cards anymore. And even if you could, no one over at the store is going to be doing the same thing as you. So, like, we do benefit from the monolithic game being unified under one thing. Because, yeah, people will keep making Magic cards, so we go to the store, but that company makes really shitty Magic cards, and that designer's way over the line. And I can't, if I go to my game store, am I even playing the same game?
Oh, yeah, no, I'm talking about, like, in a more post-apocalyptic, like.
Oh, yeah, no, when we're sitting over the gasoline fire, I mean, I'm mostly looking forward... What's the Fallout New Vegas game with the trading cards? Or the playing cards? Caravan. I'm happy to live in a weird world where we've like, stuck together 4 trading cards games into some weird wasteland. Okay.
But, like, for real, though, like, I don't... So as someone who's, like, so vehement, like, I'm very pro proxy. I have never used a proxy outside of a tournament that has specifically afforded proxies.
Why?
Not one time. I don't know. I just haven't. I like playing with bad cards. I've never found a card that I absolutely wanted to put in a deck end up being prohibitively expensive. Like, and I think the most expensive card that I ever bought when I bought it was Painter's Servant when it got unbanned.
I know why I haven't. I haven't played with proxies because I like my cards to look pretty, and proxies generally aren't pretty. They're, like, printed out, or it's a forest with a name written on it, and that makes me sad.
I play with proxies because, as somebody who runs a YouTube channel and we're making constant deck lists, I played with proxies this past Tuesday. We only have 8 of a card, and 3 decks were using it, and we needed 12 of it, and so we had to split cards, and so we used Pokemon cards and, like, hey, everybody, this is this thing. We don't have enough. But in order to bring people the best deck and best watching experience possible, this is what it had to be.
Because I feel like that really goes back to the whole training thing. I'm sure there are, teams out there and stuff like that that will use proxies and stuff like that until they figure out what they actually want to, go cohesive with and, go play with and stuff.
For sure.
So.
Like, I don't think I've ever, the most proxies I've ever played with, one time during, oh gosh, it would have been Innistrad Ravnica standard, I built junk tokens, or I guess it'd be Abzan tokens in the modern day nomenclature. And then I proceeded to lose against Brett's Abzan Reanimator every single game because it was a bad matchup when we were playtesting, and I decided I didn't want to build that deck.
Fun fact, I traded that Bayou that came up for a bunch of the Shocklands that let me build that deck.
There you go.
Which I don't know if that helps or hurts my position. Probably hurts.
I mean, like, I don't think, like, if you're proxying a lot of this stuff from, like, that's on the reserve, like, a lot of the stuff on the reserve list, you probably don't. Like, I don't think anybody, like, needs, capital N needs to be running alpha beta duels outside of, like, legacy tournaments and stuff, I guess. So, like, if it's just for your commander decks, just run the Shocklands, or just, I don't know.
I mean, that's it. Or if you have them, I don't think it's this horrifying advantage.
Like, it's too late.
Yeah, it's like I run. That's my, and for me, and this is a weird thing, and this is also just, we're getting back to personal preference, not telling what other people to do. I like the challenge of it. So I traded a bunch of cards recently, and I bought a Serra Sanctum a year ago.
Sure.
Because that card's going to get really pricey. And the day is going to come where I'm going to want to build with Serra Sanctum. And now I've got it.
It's ever going to get really expensive, though.
I mean, if the popularity of this game keeps going up and up and up and up and up, the reserve list is not going down. Even during the pandemic, the reserve list prices are trending up, not down. And so for me, it's, I bought or I saved up my money, or I've decided I'm not going to buy this other fun thing. I'm going to buy the white-red dual land. And now I get to run it. And so, and this is, again, just a personal thing. It's a game piece that I now get to feel good about. I've added it to my deck. I know it's in there. Maybe I traded cards. I used my money that I saved up to buy this thing for my deck, and that's a personal thing, and that's one of the reasons I don't run proxies, because I like to look at my deck and go, this is my cool deck I built with the pieces I had, and I traded, and I did all this other stuff and I built up a good collection, and I did this, and I chose to do this and not this other thing, and because of that, I'm running my plateau.
Why do you feel good about having spent a lot of money?
I don't know. I mean, it makes my brain have good chemicals, knowing that my deck... I mean, and this is, again, where I'm not telling other people, but I like collecting... It's a TCG. Part of the fun is collecting it. I could print off all the proxies, and that's not going to... there's no part of the TCG in that. Collecting the cards I want, trading for the cards I want, is another aspect of the game. If you just want to play the best Magic ever and you and your people all proxy, again, I'm not telling you you're living your life wrong, but part of it's a collectible card game. So, like, I'm saying I'm going to collect the alt arts on all the swords, and I know I've got that, and it makes me happy. It makes me happy to have done that.
What you're saying is your little monkey brain says, this rock is the rock that all of the other monkeys want, but I have it.
Yeah, no, well, yeah. All I do in my life is I just...
Like, okay, as long as you own that, like,
my entire life is moving from one point to the other to make my brain give out the good chemicals. That's all I've got.
All right.
May I, before we just end this,
I think it's petty.
Pivot just a little bit. Are we all okay with altered art as long as the card is recognizable as what it is and it's, cool, and you spent the money on the card and whatever it's altered?
God. As long as it's not like big-titted anime girls.
Yeah, I'm all about... I love alters. Alters are great. I think it's a whole other aspect of the game, and yeah, as long as you're following those things and you're not doing it to obfuscate and you have done the things that are reasonably laid out, yeah, I think it's totally reasonable. Tam, we need to do a commercial break, probably, right?
Nope. We're just gonna. I'm just gonna shoehorn it in somewhere. We've been recording the real show for about an hour.
Yeah, because the big titted anime girls is definitely I find it a little
objectifying.
Cool. Objectifying. Yes, that's a good word. It's distasteful.
I want to put a pin in this just very briefly. Let's talk about this in the post show. This is an actual thing worth talking about, and
sure.
I want to rail. I think there's some good stuff to talk about, and I get to rail against that game Force of Will.
You're gonna rail against the anime girls.
I get to complain about that game Force of Will. So, we're gonna say, oh boy, I told y'all. I told everybody there might be some opinions that I had that were shitty. So thanks everybody for tuning in. This was an episode. Oh boy. I had a good time talking about this. This was intense. I hope you all enjoyed that as well. We're going to keep talking about weird, creepy, titty anime girl lands in the post show. So if you want to catch that, again, $1 on Patreon, and you'll be able to catch. Even if you're watching this on YouTube, you can go back and look at the old full episodes, catch the pre and post show. Oh gosh, we're going to talk about magic in the pre and the post show. Oh gosh.
Oh god,
fucking gotcha.
Disappointing.
So gotcha.
We're going to sign off for now and head over to the post show. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. We really appreciate it. Stay safe out there, and remember who you are.